the Belated Binge podcast.
Hi, and thanks for watching Belated Binge on YouTube. Here we post mostly unedited footage from segments of our podcast series where we re-binge some of the most iconic series in recent memory that I was incredibly late on. Follow along as we're rereading the Harry Potter series and join the discussion in the comment section. If you enjoy it, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to not miss an episode. And of course, if you want to hear the episode in full, you can listen to Belated Binge wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media, become a patron for early access and exclusive bonus content. Again, thanks for watching Belated Binge.
Scouting Report.
The Scouting Report on the Belated Binge podcast is where we take a little bit more of a deep dive into a single character and highlight them in our chapter discussions. Think of it as a scouting report in sports, where you start talking about players' abilities and tendencies and personalities and things like that. It's the same thing here within the characters of the story and what we learn about them as characters and who they are as they're developing throughout the books and throughout the chapters. We will probably have multiple instances where we deep dive into the same character based on their behaviors and what we learn about them in the chapters moving along. So I guess I say that to say that this probably won't be the last time that we do a scouting report segment on Harry Potter. Obviously, he's going to be the focus for this week's because we officially meet him. He's the main protagonist of our story. Our narrative shifts to being from his perspective in Chapter 2 of Sorcerer's Stone, the Vanishing Glass. And throughout this chapter, we learn a lot about him. We get his sense of humor, a little bit of his personality, a little bit of that snarkiness that kind of develops as the series goes along, and that we generally, as a fandom, I think, love about Harry Potter. We get a glimpse into his character, and truly where I want to take a little bit more deeper view into that glimpse is through the conversation that he has with the snake at the zoo. What 11-year-old boy who immediately after realizing he can talk to snakes goes right into asking the snake about itself, its family, its captivity, its day to day, how you doing, buddy? This shows an incredible amount of empathy right away as a human being, as a child, as a character, rather than being freaked out that I can talk to snakes. He immediately starts thinking about the snake as another living being, which again, at 11 years old, is an impressive bit of empathy. Juxtapose this with Dumbledore's memory of meeting Tom Riddle at the orphanage for the first time. He's bragging that he can talk to snakes, how he can make animals do what he wants. He's already said he can make people hurt. He's relishing in the power and in finding out that he's special, as he says it. This only reinforces his already inflated sense of superiority. In this series, in my opinion, we get a bit heavy-handed with it from time to time, but this series definitely likes to compare Harry with Tom Riddle. Both were orphaned as babies. Both were raised by people who either couldn't or just wouldn't give them the affection needed for infants to develop properly. Not only similar in upbringing, but also a bit similar in physical features, as well as each of them equally finding a home once they get to Hogwarts. Both of them would rather be at Hogwarts than literally anywhere else. They even stumble upon some of the same secrets of the castle. Think Chamber of Secrets, think Room of Requirement, think handling relics from the school's founders. Both of them have all of this in common. But these similarities are starkly contrasted by their differences at each of these phases. Take those three that I just mentioned. Harry first needs the rumor requirement to help his classmates learn defense against the dark arts. He also needs it to hide a book. He marvels at how many students before him had discovered the room. He's thinking about, first, his use of the rumor requirement to help other people. His finding of the Room of Hidden Things version of the rumor requirement to how many came before him, how he's part of something bigger, how there are other people around that, make up his being there and his reason for being there. It's all stemmed either from needs of others, or he is immediately drawn into the fact of how many people have needed this room prior to him. Whereas Tom Riddle, he wants to use the room to hide a bit of his soul, believing he and only he could ever be clever enough to find such a secret place in the castle. Tom Riddle finds the Chamber of Secrets in order to release a basilisk. He kills a Muggle-born student with it, Moaning Myrtle. He revels in it. This is his birthright as a descendant of Salazar Slytherin himself. Harry finds the chamber in order to save Ginny Weasley, his best friend's sister, his future wife, and nearly sacrifices his own life in the process in order to protect others in the school from Ginny's near fate. Tom Riddle seeks Hogwarts founders' objects, Hufflepuff's cup, Slytherin's locket, the diadem of Ravenclaw, in order to encase shards of his soul into them to make him invincible, unable to die, believing it will provide him extra superiority in his quest to conquer death, and also show and prove once and for all how special he is. Whereas Harry is presented founders' objects in the same moment that he's trying to save Ginny and the school from the heir of Slytherin and the return of teenage Tom Riddle, the Sorting Hat, and Gryffindor's sword. In all of these cases, from finding the Chamber of Secrets itself and the intent in going into it, completely different people, completely different characters. This series is stood up on being about choices, not abilities. And it's clear throughout the entire story, despite the fact that Harry's kind of forced into seeing the similarities, that there are just massive, massive gulfs of differences between these two characters who are our primary protagonist and antagonist throughout the series. When Harry learns he's a wizard, he says it's a mistake. He's normal. He can't be special. Tom Riddle takes it as confirmation that he always knew he was special. And when Tom Riddle learns that he can talk to snakes, he uses them to do his bidding. Harry asks it how his day's going. Two completely different characters. One full of empathy and compassion all the way back at 11 years old, despite an upbringing that could easily make a child awful. He could be full of hate. He could have easily gone the path of Tom Riddle, who lacks empathy, is completely incapable of feeling emotions like love or companionship, or truly giving a crap about any other human individual on the face of the planet if it doesn't serve his overall goals. Harry could have been like that. Nature versus nurture. Harry wasn't nurtured. He could have easily been an anti-hero. But we didn't get that story. We got this one. And in this story, Harry uses his upbringing, his lack of feeling emotional support, his lack of feeling loved, his lack of feeling like he belongs, and his lack of basic human needs where they're practically starving him and shoving him into a broom cupboard. He uses that to reflect the importance of how other people are feeling when he meets them, and that they could have things going on that he doesn't see. Nobody else in the world outside of that house, and apparently the wizarding world who's sending the letters to him knows what he's going through at home. But he wants to know how other people are doing and what they're going through at home and how that's impacting them in their day. And he actually genuinely cares about other people. Again, two vastly different characters. One full of empathy, one lacking it entirely. Let's do some foreshadowing.